welcome to our Zoomer Times TV presentation. We have another spectacular author, and it's so appropriate. We booked her, but we didn't know what we would be going through nationally when we booked her. The name of her book is The Bullying Pandemic. I'm going to hold it up. Here it is, and her name is Pamela Reynolds. Pamela Reynolds. And Pamela is, she's quite a writer. She has other books too, which we won't get to talk about today, but I want to talk about the bullying pandemic because that's a pretty strong name. And I know that you want to talk about some of your chapters and what you've done with it. So why would a beautiful woman like you write something, the bullying pandemic? Why don't you tell us first, when you're not writing books, what are you doing?
Babysitting the grandkids. I do a lot of babysitting for the grandkids, and I practically write every day.
Okay, but you have been a teacher. You have done a lot of things. So
yes,
that's why I think your book was so good. Why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, I'm certified in special education and regular classroom instruction, and I taught for many, many years. I'm retired now, and I taught at a difficult school. I first began in a couple of schools that were, easier to handle kids, but then I wanted to reach out and working with kids that had more problems. And I certainly found it in the schools that I worked at. And that's where I caught the idea that, people should take a look at how much suffering children do. And I began writing my book even before I had retired. And I'm also an EMT. I served over 13 years as a volunteer on my town ambulance. And then I also spent 6 years on their board of directors. And I saw some on the ambulance, but a lot more at school, a lot more bullying at school. So I kind of came to believe that the bullying begins, at least from what I could see, it begins in the home. And kids lose all power and control. When you force them to do something, or you're yelling, screaming, foul language, they're fearful, they're scared, they have anxiety. And, I can relate to all of that because I went through it myself. Sorry.
So let me tell you, Pamela, after reading your book and hearing that, I never said that I was bullied. And I was wrong. One of my cousins, when I was talking about your book, because she told me that her father, I knew her father wasn't very nice to her mother, but she said she and her brothers were so bullied, and it's been so hard for them to get out of it.
Right. I got out of it for many years because I covered it up and denied it. My brother and sister didn't. They talked a lot about it, and I never joined them because I just didn't want to believe it was true. It's like you want to be like everybody else.
Right.
And that's why when I started working with difficult kids, my friends at school would say, "How did you know there was a problem?" And I would say, I don't know. I just figured it out. I can't tell you how I knew, But one time, one woman said to me, "When you find where the pain is, that is how you discover, why you're doing what you're doing." And
so
that was the truth.
So let me ask you a question, Pamela. You do
Yep.
In your book, you have many, many, I guess, inferences with different people. Did this book help you writing it? Then you understood?
It did. It helped me. Yeah, I did. I actually had revised it 3 times. In the last revision, I did, because that was at the point where I actually faced everything. and realized how everything went together so easily like a puzzle. That that was weird for me, very weird. But I understood why. I knew what they were feeling, and it made it stronger for me to put the book out, not to be critical. I didn't put it out to say, you're a bad parent, you kid, you do this. I mean, even if a parent had ever bullied or abused their child, it's like, if you know better now from reading about it in the book, do better. Maybe if they could see how much hurt comes from this, they will do better. And that's the whole point, not to be critical. I mean, it would almost be more forgiving. It's like the bullies that bully kids at school. They do it because they've been bullied, and they're taking out, their frustration on somebody else. So it's almost like you need to help the bullied child, and you need to help the child doing the bullying. I always had a lot of empathy for the bullies. I never felt like they should just be sent home on all kinds of detentions and everything else. And I made it a point to try to be friends with them, no matter what the grade, if I was out, at recess time.
Because you understood, right? You knew that they couldn't help it, in a sense, right? I mean,
right.
Let me just add this, that, and I don't want to be political, but I wonder what happened to Donald Trump. And I know we know he had a father, and I wonder what happened to his father. I guess you have to go back and back and back, right? It's a history.
Yep, I agree with you. I think that it's something that's done, and and I think it's so ingrained that some people just, they get so angry and they repeat it. They repeat it, and lots of people do. They repeat it, and it's just, I mean, maybe if they can see it and know, yes, I felt like that, and they can change. They can say, I don't want to do that to my child, and they can change. And I'm hoping that that's possible. It's a possibility for it to happen, because what the damage that's done is just unbelievable. The kids, they definitely they don't do as good as at school. And, academic suffers depending on what happened. I know one time there was a little girl, and she would cry almost every morning. I'd have to get her off of the bus because she wouldn't get off for them. And then when she told me one day that her two brothers, they were her stepbrothers, and they beat up the father's car. So it was just awful. And the father was mad. She told me her dad didn't like the stepsons, and they didn't like him. And she was kind of caught in the middle, because she loved the stepbrothers and she loved her dad. And it was so hard. And every day when she came to school, she would cry, and it was very difficult, And these are some of the reasons why I started that worry box, because kids brought in so many worries every single day, that I made this little box, wrapped it in blue paper. Right. And when the kids came in the morning, they could go outside my door and put their name on a piece of paper and drop it into the box. And all they had to do is write their name and think about the worry they had. And if they had more than one worry, they could just keep writing on their name on another paper and another. And I remember one day, one little boy, I said, Timmy, I said, are you almost done? And he said, no, Mrs. Reynolds, I have a lot of worries. And this little girl yelled from the classroom. She said, it's okay, Timmy. I had a lot of worries last week. So, of course, none of us laughed, but I thought it was so cute. And I figured, okay. And nobody ever told a person to hurry up, because sometimes kids are aggressive. It's like, come on, but everybody got to take their time when they were, doing their worries.
So Pamela, it's on the back of your book, and you told me ahead of time because I was going to get to that because I was so impressed, and I'm going to use that in my magazine because
Oh, good,
so
good.
clever. Because before the bullying started, that what was
Yep,
really out in front, and people use the word bullying. I think they used picking on people or something
yeah,
else. The word
that's right.
bullying, and then it's ironic that you use the word pandemic. It was so perfect. People really got it, and I love the worry box. I mean, I think they're no matter how happy we are or how satisfied.
Right.
Every day we have a worry. I worry, did I mail that check? Did I do this? Did I do that? It's a brilliant idea. In fact, maybe your next book should be the worry box.
Yeah, I know. Oh boy, the worries. I mean, you couldn't even imagine some of these children's worries. It was like way too much. I know one time, one little boy, if I can relate another story, but one little boy, well, there were two of them they were in my special ed class, and the two of them were talking one day as I was putting the stuff down, the books and everything for them for the day. And one of them said to another, Juan, because Julio said, "Oh, it's Father's Day. It's coming up. We need to make Father's Day cards." And Julio says, but he says, I mean, Juan says, "Julio, I don't have a father." And so Julio says, he thought for a minute, and he says, "Well," he says, "that's okay." He said, and I said, "Well, why don't you have your uncle, your grandpa, your mom?" He says, "Mommy has Mother's Day, and I don't have a grandpa, and I don't like my uncle." So I said, "Okay." So then Juan, Julio jumps in. He says, "Juan," he said, I can give you one of my dads because I have three."
Oh,
So I'm like, okay, yeah. It's like I had no words for that one, but then immediately Juan says, and he says, and he speaks Spanish. Anthony speaks Spanish, and Juan says, "Julio, I'm American. I speak American." And so then Juan says, I mean, Julio, I'm getting Juan, and Julio says, "Well, that's okay. I'll just give you Jay." I was like, okay. Like, hope Jay was in agreement. But it was like sad. It was funny. I really didn't laugh at that time because it was hurtful to think. And he, well, anyway, so we
out of
just
the
moved
mouth
on
of
with the
babes, though.
lesson.
I was thinking what you were
Right.
saying. Out of the mouth of
Yeah.
babes, that it's their heart, that nothing's been damaged in the sense of what they can say. But I want to get on with this wonderful book that you've written. So I want people to buy it because so many people have been bullied, and I was by my brother,
Oh,
and probably by my father as I was a grown person. It's funny, I just relate this to you that so my brother was 6 years older than I was, and because my mother and father were divorced, he thought he was my father, and he would be
oh,
very smart with me and not nice, and not beat me up, but kind of slap me a little bit, and I was
yeah.
tough, and I didn't like it. That I was never close to my brother for many years, and he turned out to be pretty horrible. So but let me tell you a little thing with my father. I remarried a wonderful man, and we would go down to see my father, and my father happened to have well, he said he was gay, and he didn't like women, and he started insulting me. And see,
Oh,
that was funny, but I didn't take it that way. But my
yeah.
husband, he said, "I don't ever want to be here with him. I don't like the way
Yeah.
he treats you." But that was bullying, wasn't it?
Right. Right.
And I
Yes.
didn't recognize it.
Yeah. And I don't know. I would say it was the generation, but it really isn't because it continues today. But I think, don't you feel like you look outside now and there's bullying everywhere? I mean, turn on the TV and you've got all the riots, things going on.
Terrible. Yes.
Everybody, they're all angry. They're
Yes.
all so angry, and they're taking out anger, frustration on everybody else. And
Yes.
I don't know, it's like a power and control thing. And that's why I think kids bring it to school, because that's how they get back power and control. They get crushed, you get crushed. You can't speak for yourself anymore because you're so crushed. And I
Well,
think that's why it gets bigger and bigger, and it enters all spheres of society,
the name
you
of
know?
Pamela Reynolds' book is The Bullying Pandemic, the story of a teacher who survived a traumatic childhood and made it her goal to stop bullying. And you can see that here's a child in jail, which was a very interesting image. So tell us about that idea.
Okay. One day I was teaching class and we were working on the letter J. I had kindergarten at the time, and I said to them, okay, everybody, I want you to draw me a picture of something that begins with the letter J. So everybody was busy drawing. I gave them a little bit of time and I started walking around looking at their pictures. And one little girl, she said, Mrs. Reynolds, I'm all done. And I came up and I looked and I said, oh, I said, you drew a beautiful picture of a man, but I don't understand why you scribbled over him. And she said, Mrs. Reynolds, that's not scribble. She said that my daddy's in jail. That's a jail. And I said, oh, I see. Okay, Molly, I see. I get it. I said, I'm so sorry. I think I was looking at it upside down. And I said, that's a beautiful picture. And I'm going to hang it right up front. And she gave me a big smile. But that was her life, her reality. You know, I mean, not everybody either is going to school and dealing with the same thing, even yourself. I mean, you go to school sometimes with a heavy heart, you know, so I mean, and I thought, wow, she was very young and she easily spoke about it. But when I think in the beginning, she was thinking, why does Mrs. Reynolds not like my picture? But
I didn't understand it.
Said, well, I didn't understand,
Right.
you know, yeah.
But you know, Pamela, my mother saved
so
me. I had a fantastic mother.
You know,
Fantastic
I
mother.
wasn't quick to judge the pictures.
So what was your mother like? Because my mother was so good and wonderful to me, and that helped me. What was your mother like? Oh, I think we've lost you on your telephone.
Sweet. Oh, yeah, right. I had lost you a minute ago, but now I can hear you. You can't hear me?
Now I can.
I'm lost.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Oh, okay.
You know, my mother was so wonderful, and I'm wondering in families if they're either brothers, sisters, or a mother or father that helps them get through that bullying.
Yeah. My mother wanted everything to be right. She was very sweet. She wouldn't have hurt anybody or anything, but she couldn't protect us, and she really didn't know how to protect us. It was just very difficult because, and especially back then, I think they needed to have the husband so that they would have money to take care of the kids.
Right.
And so I think she just put up with a lot of it. And maybe women today do the same thing.
Yeah, I'm sure that's
true. I'm sure there are some, because, yeah. But I mean, she was a good person, very, very good to everybody. But when it came to my father, if he was in a rage, I mean, she couldn't stop him. And, she just couldn't. So,
well, unfortunately,
I know one
Pamela,
time, it's in the book.
Yeah. Unfortunately, a lot of people maybe are alcoholics or they're on drugs, and then that happens. But it doesn't necessarily have to be true. I mean, and I'm going to just go back to Trump again because he doesn't even drink. And his one sons are just like he is. They're doing the same bullying, outrageous talk. So it's learned.
Yeah. I mean, my father never drank. Oh, it's a low battery, Paul.
Okay, just keep talking. It's all right.
Oh, yeah, it's Yeah, he never drank, never. That was the funny part. He was, just, I don't know why, but he never did. And actually, in the book, as it says, he was very kind to people that were homeless and stuff. He'd let them
Uh-huh.
sleep in his car. He sold used cars. And then we had to go by in the morning, walk to school, and he used to tell them to get out before we went by. But, many
Amazing.
times they were still in there. And actually, I'm kind of glad we got to see that, because giving him, as bad as he was at bullying, he was very respectful of life. I mean, he didn't kill bugs, and we had to take them outside. All my kids today, they're all married with kids, always did it, and just very respectful. But
Mhm.
so it's, we're all so multifaceted, I guess.
Well, what I want to do though is I want people to buy this book, because even if you don't think you've been bullied, you probably will know some people. Maybe you're a grandparent and you're unfortunately your grandchildren are being bullied. And how would somebody work on that? What should they do if they see that? Should they just speak out? What should they do, Pamela?
Um, I guess what I would really do, yeah, I would talk to them privately. And I think that the hardest thing is that the first thing you want to tell them is just dump that person, or just, have them arrested, or, lots of things like that. But there's so much more to it, because, when I think back with my mother, I mean, you do that and the people lose their jobs and they could go to prison, and there's so many other pieces to it. So I would talk to them more about getting help, do what
Yeah.
they could to get people, and get like the husband or the wife's mother or father to back you up, just to get the help. You'll support them, but they need to go for counseling. And I
Yes.
think that would help. I mean, you have to do something, because it's going to affect the kids, like I say, at school, in so many areas. Because even today, when I try to remember, I remembered about 3 or 4 stories, and I remember him bounding up the stairs with the belt, and I remember him in the car. But there's only about 3 or 4 stories that I can recall. My brother and sister recalled so many, but I can't get it
Yes, you
to come
blocked it
through.
out, didn't you? You just blocked it out.
I just blocked it out. And I've even tried with writing the book. I said, okay, I can handle this now, but my heart races. It goes into
Yeah.
this racing, and then the breathing. I'm trying to, suck in air. So I just
Right.
said, okay, that's it. God doesn't want me to remember anything else. I remembered enough to do the book, and I experienced enough with the kids.
It's a big
And
book too. Big book.
yeah,
I want to
yeah.
jump into this other book, even though the Stimplicans. That's a
Oh,
very, very cute book. Even though I know we featured your bullying pandemic, I thought maybe we'd just take a minute and talk about this book. This is for actually
sure.
the children themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Those were my four, and we just had we had the most wonderful cat, and we were told he was going to die. And I said to the vet, well, I'm going to take him home then till he does. And we brought him home, and took care of him, and a couple of months go by, and we said, this cat's doing great. He
Oh my
did
God.
not die, not
Oh my
then.
God.
So yeah, we had him like 22 years, and
Oh,
the
I
doctor,
can't. That's
yes.
a wonderful story.
Oh yeah. I mean, and he was like, the vet said between 1 and 3. He said when we got him. So he was an old cat when he died. And he was just, oh my goodness, he knew everything I said. And he actually, well, it's in the book. I shouldn't be, yeah, but it is cute. He
Okay.
actually went after another cat who bullied him all the time, and he bully again. And he was afraid of this one cat. He was really afraid. He would run up to the door, and I had to let him go out, not for any length of time. I timed him, got him back in, but he had been outside for a while and he was used to it. But when I brought him back in this one day, I started to bring him up to the top step, but he was an orange cat. He started following me. Well, that about fixed it. Stimpy just went boom right after him. Oh, I was so upset because he was twice the size. Stimpy was so little. He was only like 8 pounds. So he was a tiny cat, and they were rolling all the way across the street. And I'm running after the two of them. And finally, the cat took off. The orange cat never came around him again. So, and it was all
that was
because he was
good for you, right?
defending
That
me.
was really interesting. He said, enough's enough. You're not going to bully me anymore, right?
Right. And he didn't want the cat bullying me. I mean, that's,
Right.
it
That's
was
a
really
great story.
strange.
I
It was,
didn't
he
know
was
that.
quite a
Yeah, I didn't
different,
realize that. Right. Well, you have
yeah,
lots of things to talk about. I know
yeah,
you have grandchildren, right?
yep, yes.
2
And
minutes.
do you ever discuss this with them about not letting anyone bully them, or if they see friends doing it, what they should do? Is this a topic that you go over with them?
2
I
minutes.
did talk to them, but I never mentioned anything to them. I mean, they're all grown with kids and they look at me now like, who are you? Because I never brought it up.
Right,
Like,
right.
and I just said, if you ever want to know something, you can talk to me, but, I just I wasn't ready to share it. That's all.
Yeah.
So
Right.
that's hard. I still don't
Yeah.
know how to approach it.
Well, but your book says so much, and we now just about run out of time for this one. We'll have you
Okay.
back again, and I think it worked out okay. And I love the worry box. I am going to do something about that, and that's not for children. That's for grown-ups, Pamela. It's for grown-ups. I can put more worries in there, and I think just putting it in the box helps. So thanks very much, everybody. You should read it in our January issue, The Bullying Pandemic. It's a wonderful, wonderful book, and here it is again, and you can get it. Let's see, I just want to make sure you can get it on Amazon, right?
Yes, yeah, uh-huh.
And let me just say, I made a it's actually not in, it's in January, that's right, I'm working on February, I got mixed up. It's in our January issue, which I hope you got already, but it is online and you can see it. So it's great, Pamela, you're so sweet and you're so open, and it's such a nice thing to have you on. Thank you very much,
Oh,
Pamela.
thank you, Anita. Really,
We'll
thanks
talk to you
very
again,
much.
honey.
Okay,
Yeah.
yep.
Thank
All
you
right.
for all you've said. Bye.
You're very welcome.
Okay, bye, everybody. We'll be back with our next
Bye.
interview. Just a minute.